Started, let us know when we are.
Sure, it is preparing now, and it will give you, I'll give you a thumbs up in just one moment.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our investment work group meeting. We are live streaming and ready to get started. I'll pass it over to Chair Liza McFadden so she can get us started with our agenda.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. And we're getting starting at 3:32. And just Cynthia, if I can ask you to do the roll call, please. I think you're on mute.
And Jacinta, if you'd like, I can do the roll call for you. Will that work? Okay. Scott Fennell.
Just muted. Yes, I'm here.
Scott Ross.
I'm here.
Sika Green. Here. John Grayson.
Here.
Patrick Scott. Chair McFadden, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. So the next thing we're going to do is move to approval of the agenda. I'm confirming that everybody, I'm sure, received the materials they're inside the calendar invite if you're looking for them kind of quickly. Would anyone be willing to move the agenda forward?
I'll move
Yeah,
it.
move the agenda.
Oh, I'll second it then.
Thank you. And all in favor? Thumbs
Aye.
up. All right, good. All right, so that passes, and thank you guys. So we will move on. Okay, before we go into the reserve policy, is there any general public comment? No. Okay. Seeing none, we will review the draft reserve policy. Just to kind of summarize what I believe we all agreed to the last time we met, is that we would establish two reserve categories, a catastrophe recommended at 2% annualized and a contingency recommended at 10%. And then the council will have the ability to reallocate funds within the reserve categories, and will assess the suitability of the reserves as part of our annual budget process. So that I'll open the floor for if you guys can see it in front of you. I know that I don't know if everybody did. I sent a lot of comments in to Dina, and I don't know if they're in there now or they will be in there, but I know I provided a lot of feedback. I don't know if anybody else has any additional feedback on the reserve policy.
I didn't have any, and I did not send a lot of comments. I thought it was well done. So.
Yeah, my review of it everything seemed reasonable. What other comments did you provide, Liza?
They were pretty minor.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, what did I miss?
No, just nothing major. So that's great. So so we move these forward. I don't know that we need a formal vote because we will vote on them at the full board. Is that correct? Yeah,
that's correct. And Chair McFadden, if I may, one of the things that we did want to clarify from our staff before we move forward is in regards to the recommended 10% allocation for catastrophe. We wanted to clarify whether you were recommending to make that 10% of the projected ad valorem or 10% of the budgeted. Keeping in mind that we only budget 95% of the projection. So for right now, our projected budget is at 8.041 million. So if we look at 10% of that, we're looking at about 804,000 versus if we looked at 10% of the 95% budget, we'd be looking at 763,000. So just to make that clarification, we wanted to know which one of the two we should utilize when it comes to the 10% budgeting.
So I'm going to share from my nonprofit background. It would usually be out of the budget, but I would love anybody else to.
No, I would agree. I'm muted. No, I'm talking good. Yeah, the budget, it makes more sense. I mean, it seems like there's a reason why we budget 95%, because we want to make sure we don't, rely on funds that may or may not come in. So I think the budget is the right way to go.
Yeah, on the county side, when we're calculating the 10%, we use budget.
Okay,
Perfect.
well,
Thank
that
you so much.
sounds
The only
unanimous.
difference is that when we do the 2%, it's stacked. The 2% is part of that 10%.
And I've done that too. I'm kind of agnostic as to whether that's separate or together.
Right. It's the difference between 12 and 10% total. So taking 2% away if you don't stack them.
Mm-hmm. I kind of like the stack because the whole thing being 10 seems easier, but I don't know. What do other folks think?
That's as good a reason as any, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I think until we get some context and have a couple of years under our belt, we're not going to know whether stacking it is a good idea or not.
Right.
So I think stacking it makes sense because, 10% is a round number that's easy to do the math in your head if you have to.
Yeah. And then there's that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dina, if you could make sure that that's tightened up a little bit there in the wording.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Okay.
And I apologize for not being able to. I've been going into my settings and trying to get my camera to turn on, but I can't figure it out right now. I will continue to try.
Do sometimes I find it's because you may have opened the Zoom camera twice. And look and see if you have Zoom open twice on your internet. So the next section we're on is review of the draft RFI for external investment services. So, I'd love to open the floor for additional questions, thoughts on it. And somebody was switching over to the draft RFI. I think that was a good idea if you want to go ahead.
I will pull it up shortly. I think I had pulled the one that had some comments, so I'm trying to find the original version that was sent.
Okay.
Here we go. I think this should be perfect. Yes.
Ina, I have the original one up as well in Word, so I can make comments as we go to capture everyone if needed. I know some people did submit some track change options, but you'll need to go over all of those on the record if they're substantial and not just grammatical.
Did you guys collect them all on one document so they're, as you go through, we can see them?
I did not, but I do have them on a Word, so I can pull them up individually from each one of the work group members that submitted it, and we could still see it and discuss whether those are feedback and input that you want to go ahead and include in the draft RFI.
That might be an easier way to start, since we all saw this document, is to understand what everybody sent as comments.
Okay, give me 1 second and I will pull the feedback provided by Mr. Scott Fennell, and we can start there.
Okay.
Okay. Can you all see?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And let me know when I need to scroll up.
Okay, so this is additional. Scott, since this was yours, why don't you take the floor?
I had actually been talking and on mute for like the last 20 seconds, but I actually sent this in prior to getting the distributed document. This is like my pre-thoughts. And I didn't do like a comparison because some of these, as I think I mentioned here, may be better suited for the actual procurement. Some of my thoughts that I originally sent. I thought what we had distributed looked good to me for an RFI. I'm usually not that particular about requests for information. As long as we have the general, what we're looking to kind of learn. And it seemed like the document that got sent out had all that. So I think I'm covered in the thoughts that I had. Holly has a hand up.
I was there. I think there's 2 on here. I did do the cross comparison, and you're
Oh,
right.
thank
Like, because when I read it, I was like, I thought this was in here. So I went through and I kind of checked off, but there's some words that you have suggested. I'm trying to, I think it's in my notebook, which is not in front of me. I'm so sorry. I actually printed this off and like went through and was like, oh, that's a good, like, that's a better word. So I think there's like 2 or 3 words or clarifications to some of the questions that I would recommend that we include in the draft RFI, but most of what you've included in here did make it into the draft.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, thank you for doing that side by side. I did not do that, but we can eliminate the where I make grammatical errors. Let's take that off because that's embarrassing. I'm an accountant. My wife's the words person.
Got it.
Okay. With that being said, then I'll stop sharing this one and give me one quick second, and I will pull up Chair McFadden's feedback.
I don't think I've seen that one yet, Dina, and I have not processed the ones that were submitted by Sika.
Okay, this first one is really semantics. I was just trying to have a friendlier way of describing the Children's Services Council.
Let me know if I need to slow down or if I may need to.
Oh, that was just a, I would not, I mean, that's just a, you know, almost like, yeah. These are just
Almost like
minor.
putting it in both places, perhaps. I know that
Or
our
both
legal
places,
team-
yeah.
Our legal team is pretty set, like on some of the boilerplate stuff, but I mean, I think it's 6.5 a dozen, but
It's not a big deal. It was such a minor little thing. I would,
Okay.
if they want it there, then that's fine. It's not a big deal. Oh, this was just about the reporting periods. And most of the, there just wasn't a section in here that talked about the online, because a lot of the groups that I work with, they have access to online and they can go in any day they want and see what's going on. So I was thinking it would be good to ask specifically if they offer that.
I think that might be grammatical. Here's one more.
Yeah, those are just little,
Yes,
oh, that's it.
and that's all. Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question, please?
Yes.
When it said CSC Leon investment team and staff, is that the idea that this team would stay, that this group would stay together as an investment team, or would it stick with just staff?
So typically, when I've worked with boards, there is an investment committee that reviews on either a semi-annual or quarterly basis how the investments are doing.
So very quickly, if I could interject. So I want to make sure that for our entity, because this is a work group, then it's okay to have members who are not council members. If we get into an investment committee, then I think we would be looking at adding it as a standing committee to our bylaws. And then that those committee members would be council members. And then of course the staff. Is that what you're used to, Liza, or when it's an entity, that investment committee is made up of some outside independent people?
So again, my experiences with nonprofits, it's typically a mix of outside people who are experts, you know, like the folks we have here, not necessarily board members, but I don't know, maybe the folks here that work in government can tell us how they do it.
You want to go first, Scott?
The Scots?
Which Scott wants to go first? I'll jump in to say it's for us. It's weird because we're the state. So for Treasury, our investment committee is made up of other state employees. So they are state employees, but they're not, members of the Treasury. I mean, we don't have a board, so we're not really, I guess the legislature's our board, but so we're a little bit different. I know in my public-private partnership time, we did have affiliated groups. I don't know exactly how they worked in the bylaws though, because I wasn't part of that team that would have reviewed that, but we had boards or committees that met during board meeting periods that were non-board members. And so, but I don't know how it was written up in the bylaws, if those were official, if it was just, we got meeting space and we had this group that got together and talked about stuff. So that'd be for someone else to decide.
Yeah, and on the Leon County side, the clerk and the county each appoint members to the Investment Oversight Committee. So you'll have a member from the clerk's office, a member from the county, which is my position, and then you have 2 to 3 private citizens who have a background in investment.
Okay, so that is pretty similar to how the nonprofits do
Right,
it.
and there's a policy, like Cheka was saying, that, yeah, you would write it into the bylaws and incorporate who the members would be.
Mhm.
Okay, so Chair McFadden, if I might, we have asked lots of questions of our sister CSCs. I don't think we've asked the question about how if they have an investment committee and how that committee, who serves on that committee. So we can do that just for informational purposes, but we don't have anything in statute that says we can't do that. So we probably could set it up any way we wanted to. We just need to make sure we're not violating something. So we will check that out, and then we'll need to go through the process of getting members appointed to that committee, our bylaws changed, and everything that goes into that.
Right. That sounds like a good next step.
Okay. Holly, does that answer your question about that? Okay.
You saw exactly where I was going. I was like, wait, is this a standing or just a work group? But that's exactly what I just wanted to make sure.
And for full disclosure, not really transparency, I believe our council was moving in the direction of having an investment committee. So this is not, this is congruent with where that thought process was. We just moved in the work group direction because we still had so much information we needed to ascertain first. Is that your recollection, Chair McFadden?
Yes. Dina, were there any other feedback, folks?
There was one more from Ms. Green, and majority of it might have been some grammatical type edits that we needed to make, but there was one comment. Let me try to get to it. Give me 1 second. And I apologize if it's moving fast. I was trying to see if I could get to it. I think it was right here.
Okay, yes. So that was my question. So we had in the draft of approximately $300,000. We are almost there in our, I'm trying to get the budget right for our reserves. I believe by the end of this fiscal year, we will be closer to $790,000. And so I didn't know whether we wanted to update that figure just to give them an idea of the kind of money we'd be talking about, but it would be as of the close of this fiscal year. Right now, we're currently sitting at about that, but probably by the time we were to do anything, we'd be closer to 800,000, and didn't know whether we wanted to update that number or not.
Oh, I think that's important.
Yeah, I think we should, and we could do a range just to get.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah,
okay, there we go.
Okay, because I know that has a lot to do with whether firms want to take on your business. So
yeah, and if you could say the range went over a little, potentially over $1 million. I mean, I know there's people that won't look at it under $1 million, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep, I think that would be perfect. So that was my question.
Good. Did anybody else have any comments? Seeing none, I guess we are ready to move that forward. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody's input on that. Okay, just since we're back for public comment, doubt we have any, but okay. All right, next meeting date is TBD, and tentatively will be scheduled the first week of March, after the deadline for the RFI response submissions. So Dina, I'm assuming you'll do your usual magic and send something out, and we'll somehow find a way to get everybody together. And thank you everybody for making it this time. It's full house.
Yes, and if I may share just briefly, so we are going to take the edits that were and the input and recommendations that were provided today. We're going to revise the draft to be able to present it to our full council at our meeting on January 19th, allowing the time for the full council to review. We are going to seek approval of the RFI and the draft reserve policy at our February 2nd council meeting. And the hope is that we are able to release the RFI around the 6th of February, giving them until around March 3rd to be able to do the deadline for responses, putting us at meeting that first, the week of March 6th. Again, all of that is tentative as we still have to present the recommendations to our council and go from there. But that's why we're looking at a tentative next meeting date, sometime the first or second week in March.
Can I ask a question in regards to how y'all are going to release the proposal so there's a broad audience?
So in addition to having our council members share it and asking you guys to share it, we'll also actually publish it in the Florida Administrative Weekly as one of the pieces that we do, or the registrar, or whatever it's called, the FAR, the FAW. So that's typically where we publish things. And we also take input from any others that we've heard, and we will send it as an RFI, since it's kind of part of our market research, and we'll share it pretty broadly with anyone who we might think is interested, to get them to respond to it more formally. If you have additional suggestions or would like to potentially offer up the county's procurement site, we're very open to posting it there too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. We have it's OpenGov right now, and it gets picked up by a lot of different firms, not just, but there's a lot of firms who market this stuff as well. So I can contact Melody Hooley, our purchasing director, and we put out stuff. We don't run the process, so to say, but we can put it out there and where to submit everything to.
That would be fantastic. And if you want to just connect me directly to Melody, and then that way I could even maybe know for future opportunities that we might be procuring, if it's in line or appropriate to advertise on the county's website, that'd be great. I know a lot of our responses to our needs assessment and our auditing procurement that are out were picked up by the FAR, or it might have just been picked up by people knowing people. But we want to make it as broad as possible.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the next meeting agenda, I know, will be determined after we see what kind of feedback we get. So we'll work on that. If anybody has any other ideas, please reach out to myself or Dina and let us know. Did anybody have any other comments before we close up? Wonderful. I'm giving you guys a half hour back in your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Need it.
Me too. All right. Well, we're going to formally adjourn at 3:56.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.